Partnered with Senior Service Alliance on this discussion today with an amazing presenter in an important topic, Andre Lingham from the Center for Elder Justice. And Andre, today you're going to be sharing some really important information with us that we can share with all the people around us. But before we dive in to this discussion topic, tell us a little bit about your background and what got you into this.
Good morning, Steve, and the rest of the crew. I really appreciate the invitation. So I'm a native Marylander. I served over 30 years with the Howard County Police Department, also Sheriff's Department. So while I was on the police department, I'd always been interested in community outreach. So the position as senior liaison became available. I put in for it and got it. Honestly, I had no idea what that really meant. So I was starting from zero. Once I got into it and realized that the older community is being underserved, especially by law enforcement and those who are supposed to look after and take care of them, that started my journey on elder abuse awareness and education. In 2019, I retired and primarily I started a nonprofit that focuses on elder abuse awareness and education. I also was a caregiver for my mom for 10 years. So that put a lot of things in different perspective. And also my mom was victimized by an older friend. So that, started my journey, and that's why I do what I do. I love it. I love educating people. If I've always said if I can save one, then it was all worth it.
I love it, Andre. All right. Well, I got a peek at the PowerPoint that you're going to be sharing with us that has some great information. So, myself and the rest of us are going to duck behind the curtains and let you share. And then, just a reminder to everybody, you can ask questions at any point through the discussion. Just type them into chat or Q&A, and and then Andre, if you want to take a few breaks, I'll if there's any burning questions, we can answer a few of those throughout your discussion.
Sure, sure.
All right. Okay, so just go ahead and there we go. All right, we got you. Oops. There we go.
All right. All right. Can you see it? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, great. We're going to get started. All the slides will be made available. Some slides I'll be going through a little faster than others because there's quite a few, but you will have all the information. So when I decided to do identity theft and wanted to title this presentation, I came up with the illusion of privacy. Unfortunately, we have no privacy. All our information is out there. And as we go through the presentation, you'll see how easily someone can access our information. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Um, Okay, what is identity theft? It occurs when someone else uses another person's personal information to commit fraud or other types of crimes. Some ID theft statistics. Um, the U.S. top 10 billion in fraud and ID theft losses in 2023. Credit card abuse was the largest category of identity theft. Also, the largest increase in 2023 involved the creation of bogus government documents and/or false government benefit claims, and we'll talk about that later. Unfortunately, 9 in 10 ID theft victims had no idea how their information or their credit card was compromised. Also, those on social media are more likely to have their personal details stolen. So what information do they want? And I call this the big four: name, address, social security, and birth date. And as we go through, we'll touch on each one of those. Also, driver's license numbers. I'm sorry, the bank account details and credit card information. What can they do with it? Anything that you can do, they can do, from opening new accounts, draining existing accounts, apply for a new driver's license, fraudulent tax returns, using your information if they're arrested. So how do they get your information? A lot of it's old-fashioned stealing. If you have, your old style mailbox outside of your residence, we've had cases where they would come by and steal mail out of the mailbox, stealing from your purse, breaking into your car. The key to this is carry as minimal amount of personal information as you can. Here's a few videos. They have no sound, but it shows you how easy it is for you to have your information and your personal items stolen. This is a lady shopping, and as you see, you'll see how easy it is for the lady in orange just to walk up and take her purse. Pretty simple, and the victim has no idea that her purse was stolen. This is what's called sliders. Typically what happens, especially with, females, if they go get gas, they'll take the credit card out, put the purse on the passenger seat. As you see the car on the right side pulled up, she has no idea what they're doing. They're actually going to get out, open the door and steal a purse and pull off, and she has no idea. So what I suggest, if you're getting fuel and you have a purse, put it on the driver's side floorboard. Here's another one that's actually looks like Panera Bread or something like that. These are your suspects. They walk in, and this is pretty interesting because if you notice, you see the purse sitting on the chair, and one of the owners of the purse are looking directly in that direction. So the suspect will throw her coat over the purse, reach under it, and take a wallet, get up and walk out, and they have no idea. So these people are great at what they do. You have to be really, really vigilant and careful when you're out in public and where you put your purse down or any personal item. You get up and walk out. Another way to get your information is spyware and hacking. Um, if you're on your computer and you see a pop-up for you to click on, say to renew a subscription or anything like that, please do not click on it. Exit out, and typically I will turn my computer off and reboot it. Because what happens is once they put spyware or virus on your computer, they can basically control it. Phishing. We were just talking about this before we started. Phishing emails. You'll get an email from a company that looks legitimate, but what they'll want you to do is log on and provide your logon credentials. Once they have that, again, they can, hack into your PayPal account or whatever account it is. One thing to look out for, first of all, these companies will never want you to confirm that information. They already have that information. And also, if you look at the email address where it comes from, it's typically from an odd email address. Um, Here's another phishing email. This is from the IRS, or it claims to be from the IRS, basically saying that you do a refund. The information they'll want is once you click on Get Started, they'll want all the personal information, name, address, social security number, bank account information, supposedly so they can refund your money directly. Again, if you look at the email address at the top, is not a legitimate email address. Social networks. Just be really, really careful on the information that you put on Facebook, Twitter, all that. And I always say if you're going on vacation, wait until you get back to post your videos, your photos, anything like that. Um, Several years ago, we had individuals in Howard County that were going through, local Howard County Facebook members and seeing when they were going on vacation and then burglarizing their home because they knew that they wouldn't be there. Skimming. So basically, skimming is it reads the information on your credit card. Um, so for instance, recently or probably 5, 6 years ago, they changed ATM machines where you typically have a border around the numbers. So typically what happens, you'll go to make a withdrawal, you'll put your card in and you'll pull it out. Um, but while it's in there, it's reading the information on your card. Then they would place a camera over the number pad. So you put your card in, it's reading the information. They have your account information. All they need now is the PIN number. So they would place a camera above the screen facing down, looking at the PIN. So you put your PIN number in. Now they have your information on your credit card, the PIN number. Now they can recreate a new card and drain your account. Um, Unfortunately, while this is going on, your credit card, you'll be able to use it normally and you'll be able to withdraw money, but it has copied all your information.
When it comes to gas station credit card skimmers, it feels like at least once a week we give you an alert about a new one found somewhere in Florida.
Yeah, at least once a week, and that's because the thieves looking to steal your information, they're getting smarter. As our Clifton French found out, some are even getting into the pumps now with their own keys.
Every time you pay at the pump, you're putting your trust into these machines and the folks who run them. Security stickers give some people peace of mind, but it turns out thieves are able to install the credit card stealing devices using their own keys.
And a lot of these skimmers are Wi-Fi now, so I don't even have to go back to collect them back.
Take these three, for example. Florida Highway Patrol arrested them with a skimmer and several fraudulent credit cards. Court documents show they also had 16 gas pump keys. Many older pumps have a universal key that opens them. Thieves are ordering those online. Some criminals take it a step further. There are reports, even in Hillsborough County, of crooks buying the keys straight from the gas station clerk.
These clerks make low wages, and sometimes, $400 or $500 for a set of keys, can be very tempting, and that's what's happening.
Doesn't it need to be opened up and checked first?
And as we showed you last year, you can't always trust those security stickers either. When we approached this clerk about broken seals, he pulled out a roll of new stickers and put them on the pumps without opening them, meaning a skimmer could be inside. That sticker is just giving customers a false sense of security. Experts say the best thing to do is pay with cash when you can, and always keep an eye on your credit card statement.
So unfortunately, you can go on Amazon and buy a skimmer. And this is a skimmer, they're about $100. You can buy it directly from Amazon. Along with the skimmer, you need the card. So you can buy blank credit cards on Amazon. For $99, you get a pack of 10. So now you've compromised information. You just need the skimmer, the computer program, and now you have the credit cards to create a whole new credit card. Unfortunately, it's that easy. Be careful with free Wi-Fi hotspots. Here's a short video of a person that has a company that actually was a skimmer and ran these types of scams.
Inside Terminal 5 at the Los Angeles International Airport, dozens of people are on their computers. Gregory Evans is a former hacker whose resume includes 2 years in federal prison.
We were doing almost $1 million, if not more, a week against some of the biggest corporations in the world.
We set up in a corner of the terminal so that Evans, who now owns a cybersecurity company, could show us just how vulnerable people are to hackers.
I will go and set up a fake Wi-Fi and watch everybody connect to it. And once they connect to it and they start surfing the internet, now what I'll do is just grab all their traffic
We launched a fake network named LAX Free Wi-Fi. Within minutes, people started connecting to it. Evans then showed us how a hacker can record everything off a computer that joined our network by tracking what I was doing on my laptop.
So if they go to their bank, it'll grab all their banking information. If they go to their Facebook, it'll grab all that, their Twitter accounts. If they're writing love letters, I can grab all of that.
Or Evan says even worse, if a hacker has enough time, spyware can be installed, which stays with the victim.
You get on the plane, you go to one country, I go to another. But everything that you do, as long as you have that computer, is going to be emailed back to me.
During our experiment, we stumbled across what appeared to be a real hacker at work. Along with our fake network, there was another one called Free Public Wi-Fi. Airport administrators told us T-Mobile is the only authorized Wi-Fi provider.
So you think that there could be a hacker here right now?
That's correct.
Catching and prosecuting a hacker, especially at an airport, is extremely difficult. E.J. Hilbert is a retired FBI agent who specialized in cybercrime.
It's virtually impossible to catch them. Law enforcement's aware of this, and there's always the next piece. You steal the cards, you steal the information, you got to use them somewhere. And that's when you start getting the real investigations going.
Experts say there are a few things you can do to protect yourself. If you're at an airport or a public spot, find out who the Wi-Fi provider is and use that. If it costs some money, pay the money. They also say change your password every now and then and use different passwords for different accounts. Another tip, turn your computer off when you're not using it. And if you do go online using a public Wi-Fi, keep in mind that someone may be watching you.
You don't know if you're getting on a true Wi-Fi or you're connecting to some hacker's network. Like, you don't know if you're connecting to me or if you're really connecting to the airport.
Any questions, Steve?
Yeah, actually, GM asks, which government accounts have seen the largest number of thefts?
Typically, I believe, and I have to confirm, but it's Medicare. It's ironic I pulled the screen up. It's medical related. And sometimes government benefits, depending on, where it is, whether it's local, federal. But I can follow up and get you some more statistics on that.
A couple of good tips. Mary says, I put baby safety belt through the strap on my purse in my shopping cart. My wife actually had somebody snag her wallet out of her purse in a grocery store when she was just taking something off a shelf.
Yes, yes.
Somebody says it's always a good idea to have a crossbody bag. Robin asks, will VPNs protect searching when on a public Wi-Fi?
I don't believe it will. Quite frankly, for me, I never use public Wi-Fi. I have I go through my phone if I have to hotspot on my phone if I connect. Again, there's so many, ways that, if they get into your computer that they can compromise you. So I try to minimize even using public Wi-Fi.
Okay. And then Nika says, if you use Apple Pay at a gas pump, does that protect you?
Yes.
Okay. So Apple Pay is, and that is a real convenient way to pay for things, folks, if you haven't used it yet. What about using phones instead of laptops? Are they just as vulnerable?
As long as you have a VPN, you should be fine. When I'm traveling a lot, I'll use my laptop, obviously, but I use my my Wi-Fi on my phone typically.
Okay.
I very rarely even use hotel Wi-Fi, even if I know that it's the legitimate one. I would rather have the hotspot through my phone if possible. Sometimes in a situation where you can't.
Okay. A couple of follow-up questions on that is Judy would like us to explain what a hotspot is, but then Suzanne is asking, how safe is it to use my phone's hotspot?
Right. So a hotspot basically, so if you want to connect to the internet through, say, your laptop, you'll have to have a Wi-Fi connection. So most phones now have T-Mobile. You go into settings and hit hotspot. So instead of actually going to the public connection, you're connected through your phone and through the T-Mobile network. And if you have VPN through that, you should be fine. Again, computers need a way to connect to download to or to access the information. So this just sends it directly through T-Mobile and through your phone.
Okay, great. Okay, last question, and then we'll get you back to your slides. Holly asks, and we'll get back to dive into VPN more. Is there a difference between tapping your credit card or swiping?
It's better to tap because when you swipe, it's reading the information on your on the back of your credit card, that little black strip. That's where all the information is stored. So when you put it in and pull it out, if it's a skimmer on there, that's the information that you're reading, that it's reading.
Great. Okay, let's let you get back on, and then we'll jump back in and keep on bringing these great questions, folks. And I'm going to throw into chat some information on VPN and hotspots that might be helpful as well. But this is great, Andre. A little scary though.
I know, unfortunately. So we're going to go ahead and tackle the next part of ID theft, and we're going to break it down into different types of ID theft. This is one you very rarely hear about, but it can have catastrophic consequences. Medical ID theft, and basically that's when they take your medical information. One second, and basically either submit fraudulent billing or receiving medical services. So fraudulent billing, they'll have your medical information and they'll submit it to Medicare, Medicaid for reimbursement for services that you never received. Also, for medical services, there was a case where a young lady lost her driver's license. Someone found it, picked it up, went in, had a baby. It was a drug addict, and the baby tested positive for drugs. They contacted the person, the young lady that lost her ID and was threatening to take her kids, and basically was saying that, you had a baby, and the baby was on drugs. And once they researched it, they found that this person had just went in and used her information to have a baby. One of the things that you can do is, so how do you know if it's been compromised? You'll start getting bills for medical services that you didn't receive, or you're told you reached your maximum benefits. Or if the bills aren't paid, you'll start getting collection notices. So best things to do if you're a victim, number one is obtain copies of your medical records. And you can also get an accounting of disclosures report. And basically, it's almost like a credit report for your medical records. This is key and probably number one. If there's issues on your medical records or there's wrong information, make sure you get it corrected. We've seen where diagnosis or different blood types have been put on medical records that are actually wrong. And if you actually go in and have treatment or go in for services, you could get the wrong blood if you have to have a blood transfusion or, treated for issues that you're not even having. Whoever made the mistake must correct it. So say if Care First made the mistake and you can track it back to them, they have to correct everything. And with all these different types of ID thefts, make sure you make a police report to cover yourself. The next one is tax ID theft. Very simple. They use your information to file fraudulent taxes. And typically it's done between the 1st and the 30th of each year. And when you go file your taxes, you'll get a notice from the IRS basically saying that we received your taxes previously. So some things that you need to do is pretty simple. Make a police report. The IRS has an ID theft affidavit form. Basically, you fill that out, send it in, and they'll start resolving it. It's my understanding it takes a few months to get it resolved. But basically, that's what you have to do. This one's huge also, child ID theft. Most people don't realize that once a social security number is issued, a person can apply for credit. And what we'll see is if, say, the pediatrician's office is compromised and they have all the information, name, address, date of birth, social security number, they'll file for a credit card. Can you imagine a 6-month-old with a credit card? And what happens is the reason thieves love this is because they have 18 years to run this scam, basically. And if you're not on it, before you know, or once your son or daughter applies for college or their first credit card, then they'll realize, oh man, now I have a credit file where my credit score is 500. And we'll talk about some things that you can do to minimize that also. So some of the key findings are Social Security numbers, a top compromise identifier. Unfortunately, a lot of it happens in their own household. So if you have a parent with bad credit, they may use their son or daughter's information to open up new credit. It's very difficult to detect because we're not looking for it. And children are targeted 35 times more often than adults. This is one you very, very rarely hear about. And I just recently spoke at a PALS conference in Atlanta. There are people that are called obituary pirates. What they'll do is scan obituaries to get as much information about the deceased person as possible. Then they'll go and try to start opening up credit cards, different things like that. So they try to steal this person's whole identity. Unfortunately, in most obituaries, we tend to put too much information in there. So what I suggest is for a funeral home, if they want to post it, basically put your the obituary will be given out at the funeral or at the memorial service, as opposed to putting all that information out there. You want to take a couple more questions before we go to the next segment?
Okay, let's see. Someone asks, are you familiar with, and did you hear and learn about, and can you speak about the SIM card, phone, and bank account ID theft that happened recently?
I haven't heard about that. No.
Okay. All right.
And I'll say this, every day there's so many new different types of ways that they're compromising our information. It's kind of hard to keep up with it, even for me who's really looking for it. So sometimes I may be a little bit behind the 8 ball, but
Steve asks, how do you get the accounting of disclosures report?
so that's through your medical provider. I know I have Kaiser, and I typically get an end of year report. And basically that's sort of what that is of all the services that you've received.
Okay. And I did find some information about this SIM card thing. I dropped that into chat. Okay, let me see. I think there's a few more. Okay, Lynn asks, are there people you can hire to help you step by step to deal with all this? Wow, really good question there, Lynn. I know daily money managers are a great profession that can be helpful in this area.
Yes, that's who I was going to mention.
Okay, so I'm dropping the daily money managers, of which Meryl Schaefer, who's on this call, is one of those, but I'm going to drop the the Daily Money Manager Association into chat, and not only can they help you prevent you from fraud and get these things set up, but they can also help with managing bills, bookkeeping, and a lot of other things. Okay, let's see. All right, I'm gonna hold, how do you create a VPN till the end, Susan? The let's see, okay, Susan asks, what should one do after a parent dies? How do I protect their social security numbers?
Sure. Actually, if you want to send me her information, I have a whole segment that I do on that. Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
So let's see. What I'm gonna do for Susan and everybody is how about if I just drop your email into chat? Is that a good?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Let's do it that way. And yeah, because I don't want Susan's email to be compromised.
Right.
And
Exactly.
then okay, and then a question on, so okay, so how can I safely use my iPad at a hotel? I guess the safest way would be to go to, either your iPad is directly connected to the internet, or you're using your phone as a hotspot. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, so basically, typically when you check in, they'll give you either a card or something with the password. Um, that's safe. I mean, it's their legitimate network. What I suggest is do not go into any um, sites that you have to put your log on and password in, especially financial, like credit card sites. Even though it's legitimate, it's actually through the hotel. You don't know on the back end if someone has hacked them, quite frankly.
Or
So
like,
I,
yeah, or
I
hotel
try to
employee.
minimize going to any sites like my bank account or anywhere where I have to put my log on and password in.
Okay. All right. We've got more questions, but let's make sure we get through your program. So I'll let you get back to the slides, and folks, we'll get, these are great questions that y'all have.
All right. We're gonna focus now on how information is easily accessible publicly. Number one is online search engine. So you can go on and Google my name, and all these different companies will pop up that will do a background check on me, telling you exactly where I live. Any publicly accessible information you'll be able to find about me for $15 to $20. Um, Another way, is anyone familiar with the Maryland Judiciary Case Search? So in Maryland, we base everything is public that's in the court system. So basically, you can go on this website, this Maryland Judiciary Case Search, put a name in, and if they've had any dealings with the courts, then the case information will pop up. So I'm gonna pull a couple cases up here. So basically, this would be the screen that would pop up how you want to search. So name, you can do all case types, civil, criminal, traffic, district, circuit, anything court related. So say you would put a name in. This is the information that would pop up. This is actually a case that I handled. I charged a guy with fraud. Um, so I put his name in. These are all the cases related to him. So what you would do if something pops up, you can just click on the case number, and then it will give you the information. Um, so here's the information here. Tells you what court, his full name. Remember, I was talking about the information that, they try to target to get to compromise you. Here's his name, address, and full date of birth. It gives you his attorney on the right side. It even gives the state's attorney's information that's handling the case or who's been assigned to it. And I was the arresting officer. And then it will give you all the specific charges that I charged him with. Now, I'm not sure if they have something similar in Virginia or different states. But I do know most court proceedings are public record. Also, if you get a traffic ticket in Maryland, that information is public. Years ago, when this system was first instituted, it would actually give you the full date of birth and the driver's license number. Now they give a modified, just the month and year, but it gives you the person's vehicle information, who the trooper was, anything. If you've ever gone through a divorce, all that information is publicly accessible. Here's another way. If you own a home in Maryland, this is Maryland SDAT, Department of Assessments and Taxation. So if I want to search, say, a specific street, I can go to the county, put in, I want to search street address. And this is, for me, I live on Morning Mist Lane. I can put either specific address or Morning Mist, which would give everyone that lives on that street. Once I do that, this is what pops up. So everyone that lives on my street, and if you go down, you'll see near the bottom, that's me. And then once you click on that, if I can keep it, it'll give you the owner's name, whether it's a principal residence or rental, the size, all the specific information, and also it will tell you how much I purchased it for and when I purchased it. This information is all public. So if I want to go into, say, a neighborhood with $1 million homes, I can just put in specifically that street, everyone on that street, that information will pop up. Also, data brokers. Basically, it's companies that specialize in collecting personal data and then reselling it. It's that simple. Unfortunately, there's no controls on that. So I can go in and reach out to one of these companies and say, hey, I want everyone in zip code 21044 that's 65 and older with a net worth of $1 million. And it'll compile all that information and it will sell it to me. Name, address, sometimes phone numbers, whatever information they've collected that's publicly accessible, I will get that information. And it's not that expensive to get that. These are some of the major data brokers. One that stands out is TransUnion, who's a credit card company or credit monitoring. So how do you get your information? One is web browsing history. Every time you use the internet, you're leaving an electronic trail. So just be careful, and think about all the different places that you've searched and all that. Public sources, birth certificates, marriage license, voter registration records, court records, all that's public information, and they collect it and resell it. Credit card networks may sell user information. So just be careful. And mobile apps. So anything data related that you're doing, a lot of times some of that information is collected and resold. So now we'll talk about data breaches. Data breach incident in which sensitive, protected, and confidential data has been potentially viewed, stolen, or used by an individual unauthorized to do so. We have so many data breaches now. It's hard to really keep up with them. So in 2021, it was 1,800 data breaches, basically. Half of all data breaches globally to occur in the United States by 2023, which is really scary. 87% exposed Social Security numbers. The average data breach took 112 days to detect, and that was in the last time they did that was 2021. So they had your information for about 112 days before anybody realized that these companies have been compromised. One of the biggest ones, and I was a victim, was T-Mobile. So the information that was compromised was names, dates of birth, Social Security numbers, driver's license, ID information on current, former, prospective T-Mobile customers, and it was about 40 million records compromised. So what happens with their information once it's stolen? If it's stolen on a large level or a major data breach, it tends to end up on the dark web. Um, so the dark web is a collection of multiple websites, and they use anonymity toward like Tor, I2P to hide their IP addresses. It's almost like to keep it simple, it's like a spider web. And that's why it's really, really, really hard for the government to crack down on it because it's going through so many different websites, anonymity tools, IP addresses, different things like that. So every so often they'll have a major arrest, but think about all the information that's getting through there without it, without the government or law enforcement being able to stop it. So basically, you can buy anything on the dark web, guns, drugs, hitmen, you name anything you can think of, you can buy it. So here's a couple dark web ads. The first one on the left is a fake ID. So you can actually purchase fake IDs on the dark web. And as you see there, they'll say our fake driver's license are scannable, contain original hologram and UV microprint, shipping from the US within 48 hours. They only sell the best quality. Remember, we talked about the different types of ID theft. So on the left is medical ID theft, where they hacked into a psychiatrist's office and got all the information of all the clients, and now they're offering them for sale. On the right side, remember we talked about child ID theft. They hacked into a pediatrician's office. And if you look at the bottom, it says the data on the file is name of patient, date of birth, social security number, address, phone, father's name, and mother's name. Another one is tax ID theft. We talked about that, where they've hacked in and gotten W-2 tax forms and adjusted gross incomes. And again, they'll sell that information, and that's a lot of times how they get it to file for fraudulent tax returns. So how do you discover it? First thing, well, one of the ways is you receive calls from collection agencies, basically saying that, these bills haven't been paid and that you're liable for them. You may get a call from your bank saying that someone has compromised your credit card. New accounts or changes into your existing accounts that you didn't initiate. You may be denied a loan. Your typical credit score is 760, 770. You go in to say purchase a car, you get denied a loan or a crazy interest rate. And then when you look at your credit report, you see all these delinquencies on there for credit cards or loans, anything like that wasn't paid on. And incorrect information on your credit report. So what to do? You have to act immediately. Report to police. Again, I harp on that. Make sure every time you're compromised that you know of, make a police report. Contact the creditors for all accounts that have been tampered with or fraudulently opened. And notify the 3 credit bureaus and request a fraud alert be placed on your credit report. And make sure you keep detailed report records. So just remember, it's not always random. It could be, someone in your household, hospitals, doctor's offices, schools. Our information is just out there, unfortunately. So know your credit. Each person's entitled to a free credit report every year. What I suggest is getting them staggered. So get one every 3 months. Every 4 months, I'm sorry, with the 3 credit bureaus. And you can get a free credit report through annualcreditreport.com. And this is one of the things that you can do. I have it. It's protected me. Is freeze your credit file. So what is freezing your credit file? Basically, it stops anyone from accessing your credit report. For instance, you put a freeze on your credit file. If I want to, say, purchase a car and I want to finance through, say, CarMax, they can't even have access to it. What typically happens is you'll get a PIN number. You'll go into CarMax and say, hey, I want to purchase a car. You have great, interest rates. I want to use, whatever financing company you use. But I have a credit freeze. Okay, who's your credit freeze with? Whether they're all three, but who do you guys actually check credit reports? Well, we use Equifax. You'll contact Equifax. They can lift the freeze. CarMax can check your credit report, and then you can put the freeze back on. That way, no one can just walk in with your fraudulent ID or pretending it's you and open up credit card or buy a car or buy furniture, anything like that. The good thing is it's free to put on. Maryland mandates that it's free through the three credit bureaus. And also, once your son, grandson, or a child or relative has Social Security number, you can place, or their parent or guardian can place a credit freeze on their Social Security number. And that's key because now they're locked down. It's locked down until they're 18 or they decide to open it, to lift it. And I always say it's not if, but when. And I always tell this story. I was doing this presentation several years ago, and I was showing a video. And for some reason, I just checked my phone, looked at an email, and I'd gotten a phone call from Tower Federal and then an email asking if I was in Ellicott City using my credit card, my debit card at the Walmart. So I was compromised. No idea how it happened, where it happened, or how, they got my information, but it's going to happen to us eventually. It's just you have to be proactive in trying to protect your information. One of the things I also suggest is monitor your bank account statements, your credit statements, or go online and just check at least once a week and go line by line to each deduction or withdrawal or purchase to make sure it's legitimate. You may see one on there that's $1 or $2. They recreated a card and just checking to make sure it works. So again, you have to be really, really vigilant. So that's it. I really appreciate you guys inviting me. I hope you guys got something out of it. Webinars really is my forte. I'm an in-person presenter. But hopefully you guys enjoyed it and I didn't scare you too much.
Well, okay, this was great. And we got tons of questions. And before I go back to our Zoom questions, let me address, we've got some folks that are streaming on LinkedIn, and one person said, hey, are you you're teaching people how to do all this stuff, and I kind of disagree with that. I mean, I think
No, they know.
yeah, it's, I think that the people that are tuning in general, there might be somebody in this audience who's like, oh man, now I know how to kind of cheat people out of money. I think those of us who are honest, need to know how this is working so that we can be alert to this. That's one thing there. Let's see. Laurel on LinkedIn asks, how do you dispute incorrect reported information? Really good question.
Yeah, so through the credit bureaus, because I've had to do this myself, there's typically a link or somewhere where you can fill out whatever form they request to dispute it. And again, once you go on these specific credit bureau sites, it will walk you through how to dispute a transaction or information in your credit report.
Okay. Now, a couple of questions here, and I am going to share your website because folks are asking um, what what services do you offer, and what, if any, supports do you? Yeah, and tell us a little bit about your organization and when and how and why we should contact you, and
Yeah.
what we can get.
Yeah, so we mainly do education and awareness, and that's through presentations, in person. Like I said, I love those webinars. I've been out to church groups, anywhere that will have me to educate people. And I also get a lot of calls about people that have been victimized. So basically, I give them advice for one on how to deal with law enforcement. Um, Again, I was in law enforcement over 30 years, and it was a struggle on my department to getting some of these cases taken seriously, especially with the financial exploitation of older adults. Um, so mainly it's consultation and it's free of charge. And I just kind of help them navigate through the system if possible.
Great. Okay. All right. Let me get to a bunch of these questions here. Hopefully you can hang on for a little bit, Andre.
Sure.
Um, Data breaches with large companies, as part of a settlement, they sometimes offer two or three more so-called ID protection credit monitoring. Should you trust these monitoring services or get your own ID protection monitoring?
Typically, they're the major ones that they offer. You can trust them, but again, that's monitoring. I would get the credit freeze
Okay.
because monitoring will tell you, oh yeah, someone's attempted to open this account, that account, or try to access your credit report or whatever. So they notify you, but I would actually get the credit freeze. That way I know that they can't even compromise that. So it's good to have, you can have both actually.
Okay. All right. Wow. There are lots of questions here. So let me get through these. Okay. Uh, what are the primary steps that you take once your identity is stolen? Application for credit cards and bank accounts were applied for online and attempts made with the IRS. What are our next steps after freezing our credit with agencies and check system?
So the key is once you report it to police and you start navigating that crazy highway of getting your credit report cleaned up. It's unfortunately it's not going to happen overnight. You just have to make sure that everything document everything that was compromised or fraudulent accounts on your credit report and follow up to make sure they're removed. I'm not sure typically how long it takes. I think each company is a little different. Um, just as a side note, I'm trying to put together an in-person presentation on identity theft and also have a representative of the three credit bureaus to attend to answer these types of questions. So once I put that together, if anyone is interested or Senior Services Alliance wants to partner or positive aging, maybe we can put something together like that and have the experts come in to answer a lot of these questions.
Excellent. I love it. Okay. All right. How do you keep how do you keep people from selling your house or real estate underneath you?
Yeah, that's relatively a new thing. I can't remember the specific term. Now they have insurances for that, and I haven't really researched that. Um, that's kind of on the list of things I need to do. Um, I think it's title insurance is what it's called.
Okay.
Um, and I'm going to do some more research because for me, from the law enforcement standpoint, if I can prove that it was fraud, why should I lose my house? I just don't wholly understand the concept. So I'll follow up back with that. Or if they want to send me an email, again, any question that you have, send me an email and I'll reach out to you directly.
And I'm dropping Andre's email in right now. And then Judy and several people are asking, is there somebody that we can hire? Like in our business, the aging life care managers are great and daily money managers are great because they can help us navigate these highways that we don't know anything about. Is there a profession out there that we can trust that can sort of help us navigate this area of life?
There are, let me get a few names and I'll forward them out.
Okay, and then folks, when Andre sends those to me, I'm going to put his PowerPoint up on the recording link, but I'll also put some of those resources that he sends to me. Okay. Uh, Annette says, what's the best way to stay on top of information regarding upcoming scams? Yeah, is there like uh, uh I mean, is there sort of a clearinghouse of information on this?
Federal Trade Commission is one. One of the ways I learn about a lot of new scams is on my email through Gmail. I get alerts, so I put in like elder fraud, ID theft fraud. It's several different, topics that names that you can put in there, or topics basically. And anything that sort of pops up, news stories, whatever related to that, you'll get an email. And so I tend to get a lot of emails and updated on the different types of scams through that.
Yeah.
Also,
Wow.
Identity Theft Resource Center. That's a big one also.
Okay. Yeah, the FTC, I'll put this in here. This looks pretty up to date with recent information.
Yeah.
I'll drop that one in. And what did you say the other one is? The identity.
Identity Theft Resource Center.
Okay, great. Okay. Um, all right. Is it your advice not to put an obituary in a newspaper or online?
And this is totally a personal choice. And I bring this up because we've seen instances where, these thieves have gone through obituaries. And because you think about it, I had one that I used in a presentation that was 2 pages long. And I mean, it was great. The guy had a great life, but everything in there, they listed his jobs, they listed when he was born, when he passed, his kids' names, his grandkids' names, all that stuff. And I mean, you don't think people would look at obituaries and say, hey, I want to, steal their information or whatever, but we have to sort of think like that. Again, it's a personal choice. You can put as minimal or as much as you want. What I'm going to do, and what we do now in my family is, again, we'll have the person, picture that passed away, and obituary will be given out at memorial services. And that's how we do it. Again, I'm not gonna say, not to do it. It's one more thing that you may have to worry about down the road. And also, if you do want to post it, once these services are over, you can request a funeral home to take it down.
Okay. Let's see. Karen, boy, this is an interesting one. Karen says, I tried to freeze my credit yesterday, and we had this discussion today. One of the credit bureaus told me my social security number and birth date didn't match their info. Another did not go through. It asked me a bunch of ridiculous questions I could not answer. Haven't tried a third one yet. Don't know what to do about this.
Okay. I froze mine probably 8 years ago, and it literally took me 5 minutes for like each one. Have
Well,
them reach out to me, please.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Karen, email Andre because it sounds like hopefully things have not already been compromised with the inaccurate social security
Right.
and or what have you. Um, let's see. Um, can you use your credit cards on a regular basis even if there is a freeze?
Yes, yes, I should explain that. So it doesn't affect any credit cards or anything. It's just it stops anyone from opening up any new credit cards or purchasing a home or anything like that.
Okay. Um, John says, if you have your credit frozen, is there any reason to still check your credit report?
Yes, I would just to that way you get in the habit of checking it.
Okay.
Um,
And one of our very loyal positive aging community members, Mary, says, this is scary and overwhelming. What are the top three things? This is a great question. What are the top three things one can do to protect themselves? I know you've gone over a lot of stuff, but like if we were in an elevator and you only had a few minutes to kind of like, hey,
right.
here's the top three, like what would you say?
Number one, credit freeze. Number one. Number two, monitor every account, whether it's week. Set up a time where you look at your bank account, your credit cards, even if you're not using them. Just go make sure that there's no charges or anything on there like that. And just be mindful of every time that you use your card, you swipe it or whatever, there's a potential that someone could, it could be a skimmer on there. So, which goes back to monitor. And I know we don't do it that much anymore. And the way this country's changing, they that really don't want you to use cash. But if you can use cash, try to use cash as much as possible.
Right. Okay. Judy asks, do all local police departments have specialized cybercrime units?
No, so they typically have fraud units, but unless it's a high tech, you know, theft ring that targets credit cards, you typically just make a report and it goes in the file because it's really hard to track these cases. And once, especially out of the state, it's really hard. Um,
Jennifer asks, is VPN required on Apple products? My understanding is Apple has a higher security built in versus other products.
right. They did. I use mostly Apple products now, and for that specific reason, the security is top notch. Um, so I'm not sure if it's specifically VPN term that they use, but that's sort of why I use, Apple at this point.
Okay. Um, Suzanne says, I have a wealthy client who recently died and I'm helping the children with the estate. She received a letter in the mail about a data breach offering free credit monitoring. Should I sign her up?
Um, have they notified the credit bureaus that the person is deceased? That's number one. And then I would put, if they can, put a credit freeze on
Okay.
there.
And so I guess, based on what I'm hearing you too, is that Suzanne, make sure that it's a legitimate credit monitoring
Yeah.
organization. Like look them up online and make sure that that's legit. And yeah, because this could be a scam in and of itself. Is just really really double check that. Um, okay.
And typically, and that's a good point, Steve. If you get a letter like that, sort of double back and contact wherever it originated from. Say if it was from, Exxon or whatever, go contact them with a legitimate number to Exxon and say, "Hey, I got this letter. I want to make sure that it is legitimate."
Yeah.
Then you know it's legitimate. Then you know that the credit monitoring service is legitimate because it's been vetted through them and all that. But
Yeah.
uh,
Okay. Judy asks, does a medical provider have to have our social security number? Like, you're going to the doctor, you're given a lot of personal information there. Like, do they need to have the full social security number?
typically they do because of medical ID theft.
Okay.
And years ago, you could walk in, just give your name. You wouldn't even have to give your ID. Hey, I'm here to see Dr. So-and-so. With identity theft, medical ID theft, and how it's grown, a lot of times they'll want to see your ID and your a medical ID card. Um, and they typically don't. I know, I go in every year for a yearly physical. They've never really asked me for my social security number. Um, Again, a lot of times we tend to get caught up on the social security number. It's out there, unfortunately.
Okay.
I'm actually doing my ancestry background and all. So what I found is a lot of people that are deceased, they'll have a copy of the Social Security death record, and it has a full Social Security number on it, even though they're deceased. But
Wow.
so our information is out there.
Okay, now I'm scrolling up. There's so many questions. At some point, I'm gonna
99.
work in it. But one of our attendees is an attorney, Mark Werblood, who has some great information, folks, if you read his comments. But he says also remember the Maryland Registries for Wills and Estates is another resource there. He says I use SDAT. What's SDAT? Is SDAT as well for corporate client and commercial tax appeals. Okay.
Department of Assessments and Taxation.
Got it. Okay. All right. Let me go over to another list of questions that I've got. And okay. Carla says, what do you do if a senior gets dropped out lots of dollars by a contractor? Okay. Duped out. Okay, so this is more of a legitimate fraud. But Andre, your experience as being a police officer, so
Right.
a contractor comes, asks an older adult to write a check to change the roof or something like that. What are the steps we should take there?
Does she know if the contractor's license?
I'm not sure, but
Okay. So in Maryland, to be a contractor, you
oh
have
no, she doesn't know. Yeah.
okay. You have to be licensed through the Maryland Home Improvement Commission. So she can actually start there, um, and contact them to see if the person is licensed. There is a criminal charge for practicing home improvement without a license. Now, and I dealt with these cases a lot. A lot of law enforcement agencies will look at it as a civil matter. It's really not a civil matter because if we enter into an agreement that you're going to replace my roof for $1,000 and you do no work and you never follow up, you just take my money, that's theft. I mean, it's that simple. Um, have her reach out to me also.
Okay.
Because I a lot of experience dealing with this, and unfortunately, it targets our older community. If you remember in the presentation, the one I did with the Maryland Judiciary case search, that was a tree trimming case where he targeted an older adult, cut down 5 trees that were perfectly good shape. Typically, law enforcement would say, hey, that's a civil matter. I look at it differently. So for one, he wasn't licensed through Maryland as a tree trimmer. I had a Department of Natural Resources come out and inspect the trees because he said the trees were diseased and they were going to fall on the house. So that's how I got him charged with theft, destruction of property, because the trees were fine. But again, and I try to get officers to think outside the box and don't just say, oh, that's a civil matter. We can't deal with it. And that's one of the frustrations that I dealt with and still deal with.
Yeah.
Because they're really being victimized and it's straight up theft.
And now she's in Virginia, but
Okay.
Carla, I dropped in, I found a link that I think will give you access to the same licensees. And then, like you said, I think, Andre, you're a great resource because you speak the language of the police officers if somebody is not getting a
Right.
resolution that they'd like. All right, let me do a quick scan here. Okay. Jennifer says, once a hacker gets your password and changes it so you can't access your own computer or any of your own accounts like banking, what can you do from a technical perspective to get access again? Holy cow, I never thought about that one, Jennifer. Is that something that happens, Andre?
Yeah, yeah. And basically they'll take over the whole computer. And again, the video you saw with the gentleman at the airport, and that's what they do. A lot of times they'll change everything. It's very difficult. You typically, again, make that police report, and then you have to start with each individual company or credit card company that was compromised and let them know what happened. And they'll probably have to come in on the back end to help you get everything restored.
Okay. Um, let me do a few more and then we can, wrap things up. This is awesome. I love to see so many questions. Okay. Uh, Nikki, great comment. Shouldn't we also check our Medicare account to make sure that no false claims have been submitted? Because we know there's
Absolutely.
lots of
And that
Medicare.
comes under medical ID theft and everything. Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
Julie says it's always good to use two-factor authentication. It
Right.
drives me crazy,
Right.
but when I hear a program like this, I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
this is worth it. Let's see. Okay, Ellen has a great tip for everybody. I got the money cards from my bank that are reloaded from my account to use for travel and groceries. So the only thing that can be attacked is the value of the cash card.
Card.
What a
Right.
great solution
Yeah.
there, Ellen. As long as you got enough working cash in your cash card, the most you're going to lose is $1,000 or something like that. Okay. Maggie says, I'm trying to set up a credit freeze for my mother. Would credit companies think that I am an ID thief? I'll be doing this on my laptop, so the IP address would be the same for me and her information. Well, Maggie, you're a great daughter for sure, but this does present kind of an interesting dilemma if an adult child is helping somebody with this.
That shouldn't be an issue as long as she's of sound mind and
Okay.
it's not like she's hacking into her account and all that. So that shouldn't be an issue.
Okay. Um, uh, okay. This is so sad. Okay. I, I think I got a lot of the questions here. Um, Holy cow, this has been, oh, okay. Janet says, is it safer to use PayPal than a credit card?
Um, I mean, either one. I use either one, quite frankly. Um, the thing is, we have to use something in this day and age. And again, I harp back on just monitoring everything. And again, I do this for a living, and I was compromised, so it can happen. You know.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, here's Mark, the attorney, says, Andre, within the last 5 to 10 years, I ran into a similar tree situation in DC. A tree cutter from rural Virginia needlessly cut down vulnerable trees in the home of wealthy elderly owners.
It is a huge problem, and they come from Culpeper, Virginia, and they target Northern Virginia, they target Montgomery County, they target Howard County. I could do a whole presentation on we call them woodchucks. We actually had a task force of Montgomery County, Howard, and a couple other counties that targeted these guys, and I had no idea it was a thing. until I got into this business. But we had one case in Montgomery County, they got 400,000
Oh,
from this elderly lady. They would go and cut 1 or 2 trees down and charge her $30,000.
oh no.
Yeah, yeah. So it is a major issue. The problem is when we look at Maryland law, tree trimming comes under Department of Natural Resources as opposed to home improvement. So the issue I ran into is I couldn't typically charge them under DNR. They would have to charge them, but I got around it by charging them with destruction of the property, And he actually got 6 months in jail. One of the first times we've had a tree trimmer go to jail. So,
Okay, well, let's just call this an amazing discussion. Let me make sure that any of my colleagues from Senior Services Alliance have any questions or thoughts. And the good news is this is recorded, folks, so you can share it with your loved ones or colleagues who were unable to attend today. Any closing remarks? Yeah. Oh, let's see.
Meryl.
Meryl, yeah.
I just wanted to mention that about 5 years ago, my laptop was compromised. They changed the password. I couldn't get on it. I basically had to throw out the computer, but everything I have was backed up on a company in Boston called Carbonite. So I lost just a few days. I lost $1,200 in having to buy a new computer. And after that, my entire thought process on theft and what needs to be done completely changed. And if it didn't happen to me, I've heard all the stories from other people that Andre has talked about. My husband was compromised. Somebody in the Boston area got a hold of his credit cards and started having a blast with them. And I will tell you that Norton, I mentioned it here, is a great company to sign up with and have your credit and everything else watched. So I'm just glad to see that we have so many participants here and so many questions for Andre, who is just the greatest professional in this area. It's a real feel-good situation.
So this is Rebecca. I just wanted to thank Andre for all of his valuable information, but and I think it's great that you're doing more research on the vulnerability of real estate. The real estate community has become aware of this fraud recently, not recently, but certainly in the last year. And one of the first things we're trained to do when we get a new listing request is to go to the public records, which are really available to everybody, to verify that the person who says they want to sell the property actually owns it.
right.
So I think it's a great practice.
Definitely.
Excellent. All right, folks. Well, this has absolutely been amazing. If we don't chat between now and the end of the year, have a happy holidays, happy new year. We'll see y'all in the beginning of the new year, and let's make sure that we make it a safe one for ourselves and for our loved ones. And just keep our eyes and ears open. And y'all got Andre's email. If you see something weird and you can't figure it
Load
out,
me up.
send him an email. All right.
Yeah. Take care of yourselves and each other.
Thank you.
Thank you.